first foremost about Aaron, good for him. I mean, he's basically setting a standard of rehabbing and getting back on the field. And, he wants to be around his team. I don't blame him. And being out on the field and throwing the football is completely different than actually playing in a game. So he's got a long way to go still. And the fact that he's out there and he's doing what he wants to do, I think that's an important aspect for him mentally, but it's also probably good for the team to see him out there. Whether or not, this is going to lead to any sort of gameplay this year, especially with where the Jets are right now. I think the Jets have a less than 1% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
So there really is no reason for him to be out there at all on a game field, especially against a team like, say, Cleveland, which would be on a Thursday night, or a Wednesday or a Sunday and then a Thursday. I mean, it's just, it's impossible to do any of this stuff. But the fact that he's out there and he's doing what he's doing, I mean, it leads into the offseason, and at least he can say, he didn't shut it down completely. Like, Kirk Cousins is at a point where he has to shut it down completely. The next time he will be on the field will probably be late in OTAs. At least Aaron is out there now. He's throwing the ball. He's kind of being around his football teammates and everything else. So I'm fine with it, but I will never expect him to play, nor do I expect him to play.
Yeah, and I think that he is probably thinking when he gets out on the practice field and does some of the stuff that he's doing, okay, this is fine to do this, but he's played so many years. He knows what it takes to have to escape some of these great defensive ends and edge rushers and everybody that's in his face all the time. I would hope that when Rob Saleh says yesterday that Aaron isn't going to put himself in a position to re-injure himself or do harm to himself, that he's telling the truth, because that has been my main concern from the beginning with this, is that Aaron Rodgers is more concerned with proving everybody wrong and coming back this year. That's more important to him than being healthy going into next year. I think he wants to be known as the guy that did this when no one else did. And even if he goes out there and takes one snap and completes a pass, a wide receiver screen, and then runs off the field, he can say that he did it. I mean, that's what I think he wants to do. So this is why when he's out there practicing, hopefully that fulfills whatever is in him that needed to prove everybody wrong. Because doing this already is proving everybody wrong. Nobody thought we'd be sitting here. It's November 30th. Nobody thought we'd be sitting here watching Aaron Rodgers throw a football around on a practice field after tearing his Achilles on September 11th. So you did it. You got back out on the practice field. You don't need to put yourself out there in an NFL game and risk having another disaster for the Jets next season, because I feel like he knows the history around here. I feel like he understands it since he's become a Jet, and he certainly lived through it this season. Next year, it's got to be the perfect year for him in this organization, and anything you do this year with this team now essentially out of it that could hurt next year is a problem. You can't do it. So I do agree that it is admirable, and it is great for him to be able to get out there and practice, but it's got to stop there. It just has to.
You're right. And so 21 days. So he will not play against Atlanta. He will not play against Houston, and he's not going to be playing at Miami. All right. And then the 21 days will be up, and then they'll have to make a decision with Washington, Cleveland, and New England, all of those games. And two of those games, three out of the last four games actually are away. So, I don't know what to tell you. So it is, let me see. So he started yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday was the 29th. So that means he's got until when? December, I would say 24th, Christmas?
Yeah,
Christmas
that's what it is.
Would be the first game.
Right, yeah, against the Commanders, which apparently...
If they activate him on the roster.
That's right, yes. So let's just say for... conversation's sake, they beat the Falcons 5-7. They beat the Texans 6-7. They lose to Miami 6-8 with 3 games to go, where they could end up, if they win all 3, 9-8. Does that get them into the postseason? Does Aaron Rodgers at 6-8 say, I feel like I can play, the doctors cleared me, and let's win these last 3 games and get us into the playoffs? Is that a possibility? Now, I'll say this again.
Right.
I don't think he should do it.
Right.
I don't want him to do it. He has said many times on McAfee that where the team is a major factor in determining whether or not he's going to come back. Does he look at a 6-8 Jets team with the Commanders at the Browns and then the Patriots as let's run 3 of these off? Let's win these last 3. Let's get a winning season, get into the playoffs. Anything can happen.
Well, I do know this. As we sit right here, the New York Jets are 15 out of 16 teams in the AFC. It would be one of the most, well, I think the Broncos are in the midst of one of the most remarkable comebacks in NFL history that I can remember. You remember around like week 4, week 5, we're always talking about the teams that are 1-3, 2-4, that kind of thing, and what team can come out of that abyss and maybe make a run to the playoffs. Well, right now, I would say Denver is that team in the AFC.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And they have been on this ridiculous winning streak, and you feel like at this point, it would be a surprise if they didn't sneak in. But, the issue with the Jets right now, if you think about it, I mean, they are 3 full games behind the 2 top wild cards in the AFC and 2 full games behind the 3rd wild card, and there's 2 other teams that are also 2 full games ahead of them, and then a game and a half with Buffalo at 6-6. So, I mean, there's a lot of teams in that mix.
The amazing thing is that the Giants are in the hunt, and they're on the in the hunt graphic.
Yeah, at 4-8.
The Jets are not in the hunt.
Yeah, which is tough because they're just
not
more
on the graphic.
There's more teams in the AFC that have winning records, is what it comes down to. So that would be what happens to the Indianapolis Colts, the Houston Texans, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cleveland Browns. What happens to the Buffalo Bills? What happens with those teams over the next 3 weeks? And is 9-8 a possibility if the Jets can win the next 2 games? Now, if they lose to either the Falcons or the Texans, there's no way they're winning down in Miami. Absolutely no shot, no way. I would be shocked if they won that football game. So if they lose either at home to either the Falcons or the Texans, then it's over. Then he's got to say to himself, it can't happen at this point, unless they pulled off a miracle in Miami and still put themselves in a 6-8 spot to try to end up 9-8. So they got to win these 2 games. If Aaron Rodgers wants to come back and still thinks that there's a shot to come back, the Jets got to win the next 2 games to make it interesting. Because if it's a determining factor of him coming back, if they got a shot or not, they cannot go down to Miami at 5-8. There's no way.
The amazing thing is that, you still have the reputation of the surgery to take into account here.
Yeah.
So you also have the doctor, Neil Elitrosh, who did the surgery, and his reputation. You have to take all of that into account. If he gets hurt next year, he gets hurt next year. It has nothing to do with the way the surgery was done or any of that stuff. But if he comes back earlier than anybody has ever come back before and then gets hurt again, then there goes that surgery right out the window.
Yeah.
I mean, because what you're doing here is as he's up and walking around like a normal human being. He can go to the store, he can go and work out, he can go through his rehab and all of that stuff. He can even put his shoe on, get his foot taped up and go out and practice to a certain extent. Go out and play catch, maybe jog a little lightly and do all the things that you're responsible to take care of and do. But the moment you go out there and you put a real uniform on and you get onto that football field, 2 things. One, are you trusting it? The player himself, the human being himself. And number 2, if you do re-injure it again, then now the whole surgery and all of this stuff that has gone into it is going to be questioned.
Yeah, and as I've said before, but the flip side of that is if he goes out there and plays and stays healthy, then there's not a single person who tears their Achilles in professional sports that doesn't go to Neil Elitrosh.
That's true.
So, I mean, that I don't know if if Neil Elitrazer's got to be thinking this. He's thinking both of those scenarios.
Sure.
He's thinking this is either going to be a disaster for this speed bridge and everybody's going to think that I'm a quack, or this could be the greatest thing in the world, and Aaron Rodgers just proved that this surgery is now years and years ahead of where this Achilles repair and surgery used to be.
Well, just remember, the two guys that are most known for this type of surgery, Cam Akers came back 22 years old after 5 months, and that was, that's basically 2 months ahead of where you normally would come back from the normal surgery, and then also Kobe Bryant.
Thanks so much for watching the video.
Please like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when we're dropping new content.